Beloved ones, I'm so happy to see you here, your beautiful faces, and I want to thank you in the depths of my being that you have made the pilgrimage and that we can all be together to render a very special service for our fellow beings and for God. We are becoming more and more aware now in our spiritual life that spiritual involvement of one's self particularly is vital and important, but it's also even more so when we realize that all thoughts are communicable, that we are related to the total mass of souls in this earth, and that not one thought or one breath or one part of feeling is separate from one, from two, and for the countless souls in this earth, we are one. On the surface, we seem separate. That is a hypnosis. And when we come into spiritual life, we recognize that we are one. And we see the marvelous and miraculous results when we manifest this in our consciousness. All of the sciences of the soul now are being uniquely visited upon us. They are coming to rest now in our souls. But as the soul is an organ of movement, we cannot be static in knowing. At last, those who have gone before us, who prepared the way in our world, the Western world, for knowledge of spiritual life, they have made it possible now for the etheric encasements, or the wall, or the covering, which has prevented us understanding one another, and which has caused us to be so separate in our specialities of spiritual research. My subject today for you is Bhakti. Bhakti initiation, Bhakti love. What is Bhakti? What does Bhakti mean? It is a Sanskrit word. And we are presently adding to our vocabulary of English and of various aspects of our language the Sanskrit words, because there are no other words to describe spiritual experience in the sense of the dimensions of meditation and research into our soul powers, except they might be from the Orient or from the East. So when we say Bhakti, we feel its vibrations reverberating. First, we know that all names or nouns beginning with a B are mother words or names. And we know that they all have soft sounding and echoing in our natures. And Bhakti, Bhakti, Bhakti love. There are 4 cavities in our heart. These are physical cavities. And it said spiritually there are 108 gates within our heart, and some teachers say 101. But nevertheless, we do not enter into initiation of the higher illumined states of the mind wholly and completely of what is called jnana initiation or mind wisdom consciousness until we have prepared a heart. And we must prepare it physically, morally, ethically, and in every degree of emotion and feeling and thinking. So we encounter our heart, and we encounter it first biologically, physiologically, psychologically, metaphysically, and spiritually. So we understand we go through these various channels of evolvement, and we must recognize what plateau we are on regarding heart or Bhakti initiation. Everyone is speaking about love. No one seems to use it very much. But everyone is speaking about it because they want it. And some are thinking in terms of romantic love. Some are thinking in terms of fantasy love, possessive love, jealous love, hatred disguised as love. And all of these aspects are just the beginning of the phases I mentioned before. But true Bhakti love is love of God. Love of God first and all, in all, of all, for all. Love of God. So the teachings are worthless unless we enter into the path of seeking God through love. No matter how much we may gather knowledge, as St. Paul says, we become as a tinkling cymbal if we have not love, agape, which is another word for love, which means holy concern, or charity, which means more than human charity. So we begin first by coming to look into the mirror of our consciousness. We begin to recognize that love means to give up the little ego. And there are millions in this world of ours who do not understand what the word ego means. They do not understand that it is merely a shell or a covering. A few nights ago, in my research previous to sleep, I went evidently into some of the answers, which were literally and physically very satisfying to me. First, I awakened in the morning with a vision. And in the vision, I saw a form of a vase which was rosy in color, but inside, and it was sloping like a mummy's case. And then inside of it, similar to insulating material in a house, were electrically charged, fine little antennae, and they were black. And I knew as I looked into it, I was looking at my body. The shell of my body I was going to move back into, and the moment my soul and my mind and my heart moved into that body, those darkened wires were going to light up. And that was my awakening vision on returning from sleep into the body. But out of this came something wonderful. I realized that when all spiritual persons, usually when death comes, are cremated. And if we could understand that in cremation, it is only the shell that is devoured by the consuming fire. And even spiritual exercise takes you into the understanding of what cremation really is. And in my Egyptian book, I'm speaking very much about the preparation and initiation regarding the dead and regarding the various etheric knowledge in caring for those who have died. And these questions strongly come into my mind from time to time because of certain Pluto aspects in my own chart. But they are part of the research of the things I teach you. And I have learned that the body is a shell. I have known this from the beginning, but this actual experience was something that made me know that when the physical body is put into the furnace, it is similar to our being in the sun itself. And the sun simply evaporates the body. And from that, the soul is free, no longer earthbound by the weighted cares of gravity. But this gravity world is fascinating, and our heart must live in this gravity world. Our Bhakti love must come birth in this gravity world. And it is a common law that everything you learn spiritually, you must learn it on its existing plane. In other words, if you are going to learn about things in the physical world, you must learn about them in the physical world. If you're going to learn about things in the etheric, you must learn on the etheric and in the etheric planes. And you must have knowledge of how to enter these planes. And you must have knowledge of what they're functioning in, and what is their functioning, and how they are used. And then also, this also pertains to the astral world of the emotions. We must directly learn, experience, and be taught on these planes. And we must learn to recognize what is happening in our own natures. And this is where we are now in our initiation and our evolvement. We must not only know ourselves and our desires and search them, but we must know where we are and what is happening to us spiritually when it is happening. This is why schools now presenting research into the various aspects of one's inner nature. These are the schools which will be the balancing element in all the various teachings coming forth. The school to teach you where you are on the path. The school to teach you what is happening to you on the path and what is happening in your own inner nature and what will be the prognosis of this happening. Or in other words, what will be the result of this happening in your nature. As we know, we never go to sleep at night unless we retain energy of some degree of consciousness in the morning, and it is a law that we must use that energy in the day because it is the harvest from the sleep, the harvest from the night, and that energy must be utilized throughout the day. And this is true with heart initiation. We never have a feeling unless it is transmitted into some wavelength of desire of our own or the desire of someone else. We are telepathic sounding and receiving sets. We are constantly sending and receiving, and we must recognize the heart waves coming to us. Because we have insulated ourselves in tight and rigid auras, and because we believe that this encasement cannot be penetrated, and because we have lived so long self-contained and thinking that the self was the most important thing to contain, what we call the self as ego, we have failed to flow with the flow of the interconnecting links of thoughts, desires, and feelings of others, and we consequently are standing as singular, selfish, separate persons in our own estimation. But in spiritual life, this is another life altogether. We are taught by the great psychologists, that is, such as Carl Jung, that when we enter into the higher unconscious, we are beyond church, we are beyond gravity, thinking, cause and effect. We are out of all of these boundaries, and we have entered into a free state of association. We are learning now that every time your heart beats, between the heartbeat, the heart is resting and healing itself. We learn now that every time we breathe and hold the breath in the Kambaka breath of counts, we are being healed spiritually by great laws while we are holding or retaining the breath. We are learning all of these things now in our various exercises and practices, which we are using every day in this inner research of the heart. It is common in the Western world to think on having success and to be never satisfied unless we fulfill that particular image we have of success. And we are thus our own enemies in life because we are competent and capable to create anything with our minds. And this is manifesting in our life every moment and every second. We are creators, spiritually centered, soul protected, and we are constantly in a state of creation. And mind is our agent or Akash formula through which we create. So we must realize that in initiation, we come to what we call the glandular system and the nervous system. And we realize that many people have yet to understand the glandular system in the spiritual life. We are yet to understand that it works directly with the will and willpower, and that the nervous system works especially with one's ego and also with the sensitivity of one's more sentiment or lighter affections, the nervous system. But the glandular system is at the root of our willing desires and is constantly thrusting us and causing us to break our hearts against that which is not our own, desiring for things which are not a part of our own divine plan, because every man has in him his own archetypal overprint, which is destined to be fulfilled and in its happiness in its own unique way. And in this way, when he meets and harmonizes with this, he comes into that perfectly happy life, his perfect existence in this gravity world. So we want to identify and find ourselves. And so we say we're on the heart path. Now, the nervous system, as you know, is a two-way track. The glandular system works like a serpent with the back up, like this, with thrustings. And these are our impulses, our desires, and they are constantly pulsating in movements in this manner. But the nervous system is a two-way, expanding and contracting. And many people, because they desire happiness which is not their own, or desire happiness which they think is very good in someone else's life, and they want the same sort of happiness, they cease to remember that the nervous system has two ways in its flow. Out of this great bundle of heart energies, the nervous system and the desire moving through the heart and its initiation, we must learn that the heart goes forth towards pleasure in this nervous system if we believe it is so, that we must have pleasure. And we are constantly short-circuiting the pain aspect of the nervous system because we fear pain. And when we short-circuit the fear, or that is, we short-circuit the pain side of the nervous system, the result is neurosis, anger, hatred, separateness. In other words, we do not expand with this flow of the nervous system, and we do not follow the impulses of the glandular system through the will. So in heart initiation, we must especially come to recognize that we are working to produce love without demands, love without terms, love in thinking of others before we think of ourselves. Every moment and second, we are deliberately trying to make someone happy, regardless of how it makes us unhappy. In that way, we start our motor going in the etheric body in its right rhythmic order, in which the heart can expand and the great atoms of the holy concern in the heart can come forth and live in this earth and build, serve, and heal for our humankind and human race. We are presently building a new race consciousness. In the second chakra, we are ruled by what is called the Lord Jehovah. This is the race Lord, and this is the Lord who instigates war. He is also the race Lord of India called Indra. And this war Lord, or Jehovah, works through the moon, in the full of the moon especially, to stir the emotions of men and to confront them with each other, to bring about their separateness, their angers, and their hatreds, and cause confrontation so that men may reach a solution of peace. Now we know that the Bhakti disciple is very unhappy when he wants to love, when he sees hate everywhere. And everywhere it seems that when he seeks to love, a door is closed in his face. Even sometimes when we choose a person to be close to our heart and be a part of our life, that person may bring to us the picture of separateness, jealousies, and hatred, and non-trust. We are set on the path of initiation as heart initiates in the Western consciousness, and we can only free this by what is called karma yoga, or service to God. When we love God and love Him first above all beings and all things, we open the Bhakti heart. And we begin by doing this, by loving the person closest to us and seeking to make him happy rather than to make ourselves happy through love. And this is how we free ourselves in the Bhakti heart, is to seek to make the other person happy rather than one's own self. In the Niscience system, we teach you if you are to be healed, you must pray for others. And this is the only way that you can be wholly and completely healed, is to selflessly pray for others. This is all part of Bhakti love, all part of what we call selflessness. Now, selflessness does not mean that one is a doormat and that he is a sponge and that he is a parasite and that he is just going to sit and do nothing in life. But a Bhakti disciple is a worker because he loves work when he is serving God, and he loves work for its creative side of life. We say to us, tomorrow I see the face of my beloved, and when the sun goes down, perhaps I will not see him anymore. And so we put up walls because we say, I do not want to grieve for my beloved, so I'll only give him a part of myself. But if we love God, first and all, we know that God is eternal and love is his nature and aspect of being. And therefore, our beloved is God. And when we love God, we love our beloved. But we must agree with our beloved that we both must love each other and letting God be first in our life. All of the broken marriages and broken promises are caused by two never saying, I love God first. Because something in the little ego will not permit them to say, I do not love you more than I love God. And sometimes in a marriage or a friendship, the time comes when the one who truly loves God more than he loves any human thing, he is tested to show whether he loves God more than he loves human side of nature. But in being Bhakti, one sees God in the person he loves. Always. He sees God in every person, every child born. When we look in their face, we see love. Every animal, we look in their face and we see love. Everything given to us out of this marvelous, abundant world is God's love for us. And that moves across the Bhakti waves of the heart in two directions, because physical love is going to cause you pain at the other end of that nervous system if you expect that person to be God himself to worship. But the worship of God is first, and all things come into the life that your love becomes God. So man's great dilemma begins with his first breath, wanting to be loved by a mother. A child in the womb knows when he is not loved, and he is born hating the world. He is born with allergies or sicknesses, or he is born fearing. A child in school knows when he is not loved if he is being taught by a teacher who does not love. A child in society, when he is exposed to all of the ridicule and separateness, knows he is not loved. And where does he place his love? He hides it. He hides it away. He does not know it is a treasure to be, every time, to be brought to the surface again, until finally, someday, somewhere in the life of reincarnation, he will bring this love forth. I'm taught in the Master's White Line that jealousy is one of the most sick things in this world. And that when we can learn to love someone so that we are happy for what they have, happy for what they desire, happy for what they are, we are truly loving God in that person. We are releasing them. We are giving them the right to be themselves, to have this space for themselves, as we say today. It is so interesting about space and time, because love can speed up time. When you truly love, and you are very sick, and you are close to death, you are living on time that seems sometimes to be very, very long, sometimes to be very, very short. But if love is there, one moves into death with peace, with love of God, with love of life, and be born again in the next life. If you love this life, you will be born in the next life, being loved. And we can see this love on little baby faces like little cherubs who come into this world trusting you with everything, their whole life in your hands, their whole destiny yours. And so I'm seeing now the changes that are going on since I first began to be a teacher 53 years ago. I'm seeing how we are seeking love like some music we want to recover from another time. We are seeking love like the trees we have upplanted and we have placed asphalt in their place. We are seeking love the way we are looking at sunsets, which no longer are clear because of the smog. But we are seeking love, and it is the first thing we are searching for. There must be teachers, and there must be those who love to bring us the answer to these things, to give us the knowledge that we are loved. I have told this many times, and in one of my books I have spoken of it. One time while I was in Florida, I was in the Gulf of Mexico. I had recently had some experiences with Hawaii regarding spiritual powers. And I was in the bay, or that is, in the Gulf of Mexico, and I suddenly had this wonderful vision of the clouds parting. And this voice sounded very loud, "You are loved." And ever since this time, I can hear this reverberating, and I can see it in the walk among all of us. We have inherited the knowledge of burdens from our ancestors. We are children of ancestors who have been sometimes too permissive, sometimes too aggressive. We've inherited this in our genes, but we are here more in the earth than to have sex and to propagate. While that is part of life, we are here to create. Propagation and creation of the body is the first formula for life, and to have creation, we must love life. When we love that which is propagation through us, we bring life as love, and then we create. This is the law of the Western Bhakti, that he must come back to something in his consciousness. He was incarnated into this earth in the Western world to build a new matrix for a new people, a new era. We are approaching this era now, and we are learning all sorts of skills, and supported by certain ethics, supported by certain daring to be what we really are, and supported especially by love that is willing to say, "I love you," unashamedly, willing to say, "I love you enough to want your happiness." This is the Bhakti. But the Bhakti also is adoration. Adoration of what? Of God, which has given all life, of eternal God, Spirit, which has given all life. And this is why we are today accumulating much knowledge regarding the inner life. We are learning certain results from meditation. We are also learning the techniques in varying types of meditation. But we must be willing as Western students and disciples and shelas, we must be willing to put the energy we get out of meditation into the work of life, and that energy is love. And that energy begins with the love of God, because the only reason man meditates and should meditate is to make union with God. And the first union he makes with God is through love. Love has a marvelous relaxing, because when one knows that love cannot die, when he knows that love cannot ever be taken from him, he has no battle with aggressive forces because he knows the laws which have given him love will also support his relaxation to being love. And so we must realize that the Bhakti initiate will also in the Western world become the Jnana initiate, which is the mind, wisdom, consciousness, and that one having distinguishable wisdom or knowing what is in that transparency of God, that Purusha light, which is seeking to be in our consciousness, seeking to be part of the expansion of the soul and the soul powers. The word Bhakti means adore God above all things, all persons, all conditions, all times of the day. Knowing oneself in the love of God to be totally secure from his own aggressions, totally secure from the aggressions of others, and any form of hurt or pain or suffering rendered by the world. Encased in Bhakti love, one is secure. One is in God and of God, and he becomes what we call a God-man. The Bhakti initiate is a God-man. These are our coming teachers, the Bhakti initiates, because the Western world is inclined to lean towards jnana, mind, wisdom. Mind, have we not just recently moved out of metaphysics, a play of the mind, of cause and effect? Have we not recently seen that these laws are true, but that we thirsted and hunger for more? Have we not also recently come from the occult laws of coming out of ritual, of that which we inherited from Egypt? But that which we have now is something more, and we cannot earn it with any other jewel save that pearl of Bhakti, that pearl which will bring to us another degree of wisdom, which is to come in the Western consciousness. The unique etheric body of the Western world is building and preparing for another sort of omniscience in the mind, another cell of mentality to give to us a perspective. And in the West, this is called by St. Paul the Christ mind. It is called the Christ mind. And this is the mind having the dimensions and having the spacelessness of that which is eternal, which we know we are in deathless states of love. But love, years ago, when I first began under the Master in my 23rd year, he gave me a little mantra. It said, love is the key to the universe, the opener to all doors, all worlds. And I was saying that over and over. I was living in New York at that time and expecting my second child. And I was the wife of a musician who was away always. I was very lonely. At that time, I had spiritual powers, and I was manifesting many things which others might call miracles. And in that time, I also manifested what is called phenomena. Spoons and things, knives and forks jumping up on tables. I would not have them. To me, I just did not want phenomena. And so I continued to be in the Master's light, and I continued to always long for someone to tell me what these powers were I had. So I had to go this long path, the long path of learning and teaching and sitting at the Master's feet, with no teacher then in the Western world who would even sound yoga louder than a whisper, and also especially to go into libraries where there was not one single book on philosophy or metaphysics or anything to do, except behind some books hidden perhaps a book on masonry. All of these things were a part of my beginning. Think how fortunate you are now of the marvelous ripeness. What are we going to do with it? Ethically, to use it, but to use it through a Bhakti heart, and to use it in a way in which no longer will we have this hate and separateness, but we will be in the rainbow of the great bodhisattvas and those who have come And those who are placing their life upon the altars of Christianity will in no way be offended because of these teachings, because they are truth. They are truth. And so we are the laboratories through which we prove them. But as initiates of the mind, as initiates of will and power, we are failures until we have the Bhakti heart. And it begins in the Western consciousness first as yoga, karma yoga, or service to God, loving God and serving Him in everything you do, in every prayer before you eat, in every love sentence to your beloved, everything your beloved wants to do, if it is making him happy, you are seeing that you want to make him happy rather than yourself. Learning how to overcome these pinpricks of somebody's will, pulling always against yours, always caught into the gravity alternates. This is where we get nowhere. And when we finally come to consent and to acceptance, there buds a lotus in your heart. And in the center is that diamond jewel, which produces between the eyebrows the mind, wisdom, consciousness of Jnana. They say that the Jnana consciousness is the hardest path of all, because one is constantly battling with the various aspects and the mirages and chimeras of the mind. But the Bhakti, they say, is the easiest. Try it. You will find that it's not easy. But you will also find that it is adorable. In our Niscience system, we have an educational system in which we teach the Jnana, the research, the mind aspect of initiation, but we also have the Bhakti in our worship. And in the worship, we feel we have fulfilled the Bhakti love of union with God through prayer, devotion, and through constant being with our fellow men in seeking to make union with God. But more than this, we are a laboratory of workcraft, of the spiritual arts, and of the creative arts. And out of this comes the joy to realize the expanding mind and the expanding soul, when rooted into Bhakti, produces a spiritual, whole, and loving life. The word Bhakti is fascinating to me because it seems to float above a beautiful lotus, and it seems to be like a beautiful bird with its breast pulsating with life. As the bird does not fear to rise on the wing, so does the Bhakti not fear to live in the world and to give his love. We have all been misers of love. And from this, we wonder sometimes why we drink the poisons of separateness. But to love God first, this is the way, the truth, and the life. Beloved ones, you are loved.